Welcome back. Welcome back to An Athlete's Journey. I'm your host, Travis Reed. Got a special guest over here, the king of NBA Twitter. But just to go back, like to show you how old I am, I used to play with his older brother, which is insane. Um, a friend of mine, real good dude, Josiah Johnson. Welcome to the show, man. Appreciate it.
What's going on, bro? Appreciate you having me on here. I remember them good old days at Crenshaw, UCLA. Seeing you do work.
I was like, yeah, man, your brother, like I said, Chris is the only dude that played with me in high school and in college, which is insane, man.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's get right into it. Man. How did your basketball journey start?
Being a Johnson in LA, your last name Johnson, you gotta be a hooper. That's just kind of what it is. So for me, I think so. My mom and dad got married when I was like 3 or 4. We were living on the East Coast. We moved out to LA from New Jersey when he got traded from the Bucks to the Clippers. But I remember he came back from an All-Star weekend in Dallas and we picked him up from the airport, LAX. This is back in the days, obviously, when you could pull up on LAX with no issues. And he had this big mini Nerf hoop for me at the crib. So he brought that back from All-Star weekend. And me and Chris, my older brother, we wore that thing out, man. We had this little foam ball that we played with. And, back in the day, it was like foam, but it was like almost regulation size. But as you would use it, the wear and tear, the foam would start popping off. So, it got to the point where there were just big holes and divots all in the foam. And we just had to rip it out and throw that thing away. But me and Chris would play in our den. We would play full court. I'd have the Nerf hoop. He'd have like a little mini basket stuck to the door. We'd just be going at each other, being various different dudes around the league. Like I remember at one point it was like, Dennis Scott and Kenny Anderson or whoever it would be at those points. I'll be Nick Anderson every once in a while in the Georgia Tech days. But, like Hank Gathers too, rest in peace. Like, just playing different characters going at each other. So we're just immersed in the world then. Obviously was fortunate and blessed to come up in the LA basketball scene and just have a lot of great coaches playing at spots like the Inglewood Y, playing with Slam and Jam in Victoria Park with Michael O'Quinn Sr., and just that whole crew, playing with the 4D Stars, Ray Ronaldo, who's the coach of that, but playing with guys like, Diallo Washington, who played at Crenshaw, Andrew Zahn and Adam Zahn. Andrew was a big 6'4", like 12-year-old on our 6'4", 11-year-old. So every time I see him, we're like the same size now, but I look at Big Zahn and it's like, I still remember us as kids and me being like 4 feet tall, him being like 6 feet. He was like Shaq. And his little brother Adam, who ended up, being like 6'7" as well. Andrew played at Arizona. Adam was at Oregon. But just a whole crew of just LA legends playing with guys like E.J. Harris and Tommy Johnson, who both went to Crenshaw. Steve Johnson, who was at UCLA with me too, and was a great hooper. Steve Moore, who played at Santa Monica with Arizona State. So just being immersed in that world, that culture, just the game, and playing with so many great talented people, a bunch of different programs. I program hopped for a little bit, so I was playing all over. So, but just got a lot of training, a lot of schooling, and like I said, I'm thankful and blessed to be a part of the LA Hooper community.
Oh no, trust me, man. I hear you. That's how, like you were saying. Zahn was like 6'4". That's how Jason and Jaron Collins was. They was both like 6'7" when I joined them up at as ARC. So okay, I remember like
ARC too. Yeah,
that's when Barron was like 5'2", but still could score, do all that. But yeah, Jason and Jaron was like big. They were already bigger than everybody else at that age group. So yeah, man, that's good. You know what I'm saying? So was there any other sports you thought about playing growing up?
So I was trash at baseball. My older brother Chris was nice at it, but I can never get the hang of that. Played a little bit of tennis too. I got tennis lessons when I was younger. Actually played at Crenshaw when I was there in 9th to 10th grade. Played on the varsity team, singles and doubles. But I was trash at that too as I got older. I think if I would have pursued it, took it more serious, maybe. Golf a little bit. Our pops had us at like the par 3 courses as kids out there, doing work. But man, it was pretty much always just basketball. I think basketball kind of dominated everything. My mom would never let me play football, so I could play flag, but she wouldn't let me play tackle. But I feel like I could have been like a nice like Byron Leftwich type out there playing QB if she would have let me cook there. But Yeah, so basketball was kind of the primary thing. Like I said, growing up, when your dad is Marcus Johnson, everything he's meant to just the game and the LA hoop scene in the community, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that we were going to be playing basketball in the house.
No, I got you. I can respect that. And like you said, I think, you said you kind of hopped from team to team growing up, Slam and Jam, other teams. And I think for myself, I was hopping in between mostly ARC, but I did hop on K-Swiss a couple times.
Yeah, K-Swiss was shout out to Thad. K-Swiss, I was on that squad. So I played with K-Swiss. I was at 4D, went over to K-Swiss, was playing with EJ and Tommy and the rest of that crew. Jamal Sampson was on the younger team, but Barron, Bean, and Paul Pierce was on the older squads. I remember we went to Vegas one year when I was young, and they flew KG in to play with Paul. And this was back in the day, like that's pretty normal now. But I remember KG was even larger than life as a kid back then. So being like 11, 12 years old, seeing him in real life, just like, this dude that you've seen in the magazines and heard about, and just everybody knew who KG was. I think, just watching their games and watching them do work in Vegas and just looking at the older squad. And BD was on the younger team with Bean and that crew. So we would play our games and go see their games. And, this is the old days. We were staying at Circus and Janky hotels. Now the Westgate, I think. But, staying at janky spots when we were kids, we didn't know the difference. Like for us, Circus was great because, at night, all the kids would go walk around.
The arcade area.
That's the only thing you do. And nobody really had no bread. So, if you had bread, if you were like a Paul Pierce or a BD, obviously you were getting blessed and laced and you had some bread to go play games and stuff. And even though my dad was in the league, he would just send me with like some food money. I wouldn't really have a lot to go move and shake with. So we just walk in circles, with every other team out there, just walking in circles, nothing else to do as kids. But, I remember those days. Those were the good old days.
No, the funny thing is that's exactly what the first time I met your older brother was at Circus. I was in the 8th grade. He was in the 11th. And he came up to me. I was playing like NBA Jam or something. And he asked me, was I going to Crenshaw the next year? And I was like, yeah, I'm going. So, yeah, I remember those days. We stayed at Alexis Park. So it was even off the
strip. He played with like Bob Gottlieb growing up and Doug and JR and the crew, but they would be at Alexis Park too. And that was baller status back then.
Yeah, that's what we stayed. Like ARC was like, Alexis Park all the time. So that's what we stayed all the time too. All right. So you obviously playing in travel ball, you're growing up through travel ball. So in high school, was there any other choice besides the Shaw?
So I was a late bloomer. I was at Crenshaw. I was like a 5'7" freshman. And looking back on it, probably should have stayed back, just to give myself a chance to grow a little bit. But ultimately, I'm not mad that I didn't. But I was like 5'7" freshman. So I remember trying to try out for the JV and varsity team, and I'm just getting smoked. And I'm over. I'm pudgy at that point. I'm a late bloomer, like I said. I barely had any, pubic hair or any of that type of shit. I'm just like a fucking scrawny little kid getting just smacked by these grown-ass men. They had like Big Ant Garrison and, all types of just legends. Akbar Gajah Miller was on the squad too, football and basketball. Just that whole crew. Bean was a senior my freshman year. So just seeing that whole crew, everybody treated me good, but it was just like, there was no way I was going to hang in Coach West's program. Grew a little bit my sophomore year, so played like sophomore as my freshman year, played JV my sophomore year. Then I hit a growth spurt. And at that point, the squad was just loaded. And it was way too many big dudes. It was like 5 or 6 dudes who were like 6'8", on the squad. And I wouldn't really got to play till I was a senior. So I ended up transferring. Basically, my older brother Chris went to Montclair Prep for 9th and 10th grade, Crenshaw for 11th and 12th. I went to Crenshaw for 9th and 10th, Montclair Prep for 11th and 12th. His coach, who was my coach in high, Bob Webb, who's a teammate of my dad at UCLA's, and ended up getting the head coaching job back. Was like, look, you come out here, I'm gonna let you play the whole game and kind of really be able to do whatever you want. So that was too hard to pass up. So I made the trek. It was crazy. It's kind of like, you watch the show All American, kind of doing the All American thing, going from Crenshaw to prep, going to school. People like Nicole Richie and just all types of just legends on the Montclair Prep side, and just being on that campus. But it was a little culture shock, but definitely a great experience, and I'm happy I was able to do it.
No, definitely, man. Like I said, I think that's the good thing about it. My dad had to do that to me because I went to Crenshaw, obviously with your brother, won state, won all that. And my dad took me out, and I was like so upset, man. Like, crying like he took me out and brought me out to Fontana. And I was like, Dad, ain't no scouts gonna see me in Montana. He was like, Fontana. I was like, that's even worse. I ain't never heard of no Fontana, man.
High,
so
you already know.
That's the funny thing. I was about to go there with Corey. He was a junior. I was a senior, and I'm sorry. He was a senior. I was a junior, and then I'm going to the other school in Fontana with my cousin. So, whatever school my cousin was going to, that's A.B. Miller.
Yep, I already know. I was going to say, hey, you're right. I'm out here messing up, but I know it was one of them A initial schools, A.B. Miller.
Yeah, it was like when I was there, it was only like 4 or 5 years old. It was built like in 91, 92. So like, we literally was like the brand new kids when I went out there. And so, man, like I said, I thought Corey he gets mad at me all the time talking about, we could have had a dynasty, man, but you messed it up, you and your cousin. But anyway, so you go to Montclair Prep, but obviously your game develops, you become a good player. Was there any other schools besides UCLA recruit you?
Yeah, so I was getting heavily recruited by a bunch of Ivy League schools. I was actually going to go to the school called Brown in Providence, Rhode Island, just because of the bread factor. They basically, it was an Ivy League school. It basically was like, if you come here, you're going to be making like 150 racks, 200 racks out of college. You can pick your own class schedule and all this other stuff. But thankfully, it was there, and then also Xavier in Ohio. So Skip Prosser, who rest in peace, who was a coach at Wake Forest, I believe Coach Chris Paul over there, he was recruiting me kind of heavy. And I was thinking about following that same Austin Crozier trajectory where Austin went to Crossroads and ended up going to Providence just to get out of LA, get away from everything, be able to really just concentrate and work on your game, going to a spot that obviously isn't as turned up as LA. But ended up UCLA came late. Coach Lav came late in the recruiting process. I think I took a trip up there in like February-ish, committed on the spot, was just, super amped and excited. Ray Young was, for people who know, two-way Ray, the living legend from UCLA. Ray Young was my host. Sean Farnham was my host for the 2 nights I was out there and just had a great time. Sean and Ty Ramazar lived together, so they really took care of me and just had me out there living the life. And just you couldn't pass up being a Bruin.
All right, trust me, I hear you, man. I mean, my last, my top 3 was UCLA, Arizona, Long Beach State, and I committed to Arizona when Herrick had his little, run in with NCAA, and I thought I was going to end up going to Arizona. Then Lav came back, was like, "Trap, we want you." I was like, "Done deal." UCLA was always the school. If they was going to recruit me, I was definitely wanting to go there. But let's rewind right quick. I didn't get a chance to ask you, obviously going from Crenshaw to Harvard-Westlake, Montclair Prep. What was your biggest triumph, your biggest victory in high school?
Man, just I think I was honorable mention, USA Today All-American. So just doing things like that, man. The squad was okay. We weren't great, but we got things done. But I was able to average, I think my senior year, like 24 and 13 or something like that, and just put in a lot of work. It was still kind of growing and developing at that point, but just to be on that team full of dudes, man, we had a lot of great dudes there. We played against a lot of solid teams, a lot of guys who went on to college and the league and stuff. So just being a part of that, man, and being at Crenshaw, the same thing. Like, it was just a tremendous experience playing under Coach West, Mo Duck. This was when I was at Crenshaw. Coach West actually he was coaching varsity obviously the whole time. He wasn't really messing with JV for a while, but he came back and coached JV when I was there. So he basically did the double duty. Was coaching JV and varsity at that point, but just being around those guys, and I think they won state the 2 years I was there, if I'm not mistaken. But guys like Bean, Kevin Bradley, who's one of the best leaders, got to give it up. But yeah, for me, it was just honestly getting that scholarship to UCLA and being a part of that squad and being able to play with Coach Webb and then Coach Greg Patterson and Howard Abrams, who took over the following year. And just being able to ball out, and then ended up being played in an all-star game, Battle of the Valley, which is legendary around these parts. Played at CSUN, ended up being MVP of that game, hit like 4 or 5 threes in the game, just went ham. Had some of the UCLA coaches in the crowd, so that was a great feeling as well. Just kind of getting ready to go to Westwood after my high school career was over.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. Like I said, that's real good. I wanted to ask you that. I forgot that. I was like, oh man, let me ask him about his biggest triumph. So your own, obviously, UCLA, where you got all this tradition, all this pressure from being, not only Marcus Johnson's son, but Chris Johnson's little brother, and all these expectations, right? So how was that first year of college?
So first year was kind of trash, to be honest with you. I ended up I had a stress fracture in my foot early in the season that I feel like it kind of derailed the whole rest of my college career. I was out for like 2 or 3 months. Obviously, this was like first practice. Ended up hurting my foot. Ain't gonna call out no names or anything, but the foot felt messed up. I'm telling the training staff that, and they kind of had me like put like the little metal thing on my shoe and go out there and keep practicing. And I think it probably made it a little bit worse. So I ended up missing like 2 or 3 months from that first season, put on a little weight, and from there was just trying to play catch up. So I ended up redshirting my whole first season, and then for the rest of it, it's kind of I always tell people like you come out there with huge aspirations, but then I'm playing on the squad. I ended up playing with like 13 or 14 pros, and you could definitely see the difference between the pros' bodies and my body. So playing with guys like Dan Gazarich, Matt Barnes, playing with guys like Earl Watson, Jason Capono, Trevor Ariza, Dijon Thompson, Cedric Bozeman, all types of just legendary dudes, but kind of found my place in the pecking order. And do I wish I would have played more? Yeah, of course, but that wasn't the journey that my basketball career was going to be on. But just really tried to excel as much as I could, try to be as good of a role player as I could, try to excel in the classroom. I think I won like the academic award 2 or 3 times. We really just try and kill it in the classroom, raise the team GPA up. But being on that squad with Coach Lavin and Ben Howland, who took over after Lav got let go, just being around those guys and being a part of that UCLA fraternity and basketball brotherhood is something I don't ever take lightly or take for granted.
No, that makes a lot of sense, man. UCLA is like a different level of basketball especially on the West Coast. Like it's like you got all these legends from the back in the day. You got legends currently, and usually if you're playing at UCLA, you got 1 or 2 NBA guys that you're playing with minimum every year.
Yep.
And in the 2 years I played with eight NBA guys, and obviously myself and Billy playing overseas. So basically 10 professionals in just the 2 years I played. Like you said, Earl, Barron, Jerome, Dan, Matt, Toby, JR, Jelani, and then me and myself and Billy. Me and Billy, got rest of soul, played overseas. So yeah. Definitely understand that. So your college career, I know you wanted to play more. You played obviously 4 years at UCLA. You graduate. Now, what happens after that?
So I had the option. So my grandmother is from France, so I had the option to get French citizenship. Could have probably played over there, played pro a little bit. But I'd seen just the way my older brother Chris, who would bounce around. He played in like 6 or 7 different countries. He'd be gone 7, 8 months out the year. He would come back summertime. We'd be able to get the work in. But then it was always just like, yo, I'm going to Lebanon. I'm going to Qatar. I'm going to Turkey. Or I'm going to Russia. And it's just like, and this is back in the day, we didn't really have technology like we do now. We had email and stuff, so we could communicate through email. But he was a lot more, I'm more introverted than him. Like, so he can go pretty much anywhere and just become the man. Like he could be, he'd come back telling all these legendary stories from everywhere he'd be at. And I'm just like, I would be listening like, ooh, I don't want to be in no foreign country. I don't speak the language and I'm by myself for 7 months out of the year. That just sounded terrible to me. So I ended up going just a different path, started working in production. So started working at Fox Sports out here in LA on the Pico lot, Fox Studios. So was working there, working in the highlight department on the 5th floor, cutting all types of crazy highlights. So it'd be like basketball and cool sports, but then it'd also be like NASCAR, hockey, a little bit of everything, but getting cultured in a bunch of different sports and working with all the different, this was back in the day when Fox had all the regional networks. So, FSN Arizona, FS Southwest, and they still have some of them now, but they were a lot more, spread out with their RSNs, with their regional sports networks. And did that, then started working at NFL Network. So I started working at NFL Network like October. That's funny, it's almost like close to the anniversary. I think October 24th, 2005 was my first day at NFL Network. Started working over there, or maybe it was the 17th, I don't even remember, but started working over there 1 day a week. Then that eventually expanded to like a full production assistant job there. was at NFL Network for like 10 years. So it was a part of just like the full expansion of the network. So 2005, I think people don't remember, but it was a super small outfit at that point. We might have had like 30 or 40 employees on the production side. We were just cranking out a bunch of shows. We were all working on different shows together. And then over the next, 5-10 years, the network just exploded and expanded. And they got the Thursday Night Football package. So worked on that pregame, halftime, postgame shows, worked Super Bowls, drafts, combines, pretty much anything the NFL had to offer, opening kickoffs. I worked a little bit of everything. So, it was a great opportunity to work over there. Worked with a lot of tremendous people like Rich Eisen, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin, Steve Mariucci, Darren Horton, I think Fran Charles. I just could go down the list of all the incredible talent and amazing people that I got the chance to work with, in addition to people behind the camera as well that have now gone on to be successful producers, at networks all across the country. So definitely thrown in the fire there. But getting the opportunity to work for an entity as big as the National Football League isn't something I take lightly. And I definitely was grinding out, going hard there, kind of learning the ropes, but also learning that, damn, them long-ass days, I don't really want to be a producer. I'd rather be in front of the camera, man, to be honest. Like, I'd rather work for the talent. Like, we always joke now, but, like, back in the day, it was kind of like Shawshank. Like, it was like any institution, like, but you just knew the routine. So Sunday night, like the talent, like the people who are on the shows and on air, they get like the great catered meals and shit. So we'd have to basically wait. I knew like right when their show went on, I could slide in the talent room and just get a nice, snack off their food, get all their stuff. But I became cognizant when everybody's meals was coming in, all the different departments, and it became a running gag between all of us lower level people who are only making like 20, 30 grand a year. They're making like 500 grand to $1 million. Like, I'm at least get some snacks, get some good food out of this thing. And I'm going to make sure. Same thing in college. College, you learn the hustles. You learn, like, okay, you can go whatever, get somebody to swipe you with their Bruin card. Towards the end of the quarter, if people got the extra swipes on, you ask the right person, they're going to get you a swipe or get you, you can get the cases of soda and all that other good stuff. So you can go ahead and snack some sodas, whatever you need, some snacks, just to be able to get through. But no, so it was great, great work in there, man. Ton of great people I'm still friends with to this day, and I'm super thankful for that opportunity.
Okay, so you actually knew when you were in college. Did you dib and dabble in college a little bit before you went to production after?
So, we had always kind of, I knew that I was going to have a career in the industry. When I grew up in LA, I went to this elementary school called UES, which was on UCLA's campus. It was taking a lot of film classes there as like a 9, 10, 11-year-old. So got to hang out with some people like Jason Schwartzman, who's now a successful, talented actor, starring in movies and just being around the world and growing up in LA and spending a bunch of time on the different world set where, my dad played with Norm Nixon, Norm's wife, Debbie Allen. Debbie was running things on a different world for I think seasons 2 through 5 or 6, whatever it was. So my mom did a bunch of extra work on the show. So I would go with her up to the set and just hang out and spend all day there. I went to school, elementary school with Debbie and Norm's kids. So we would get picked up, in the carpool and shuttled off to the studio where they'd be taping different worlds. So, you get picked up around like 3 o'clock from school, head over to the studio. You'd be there till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. They would tape one episode, but they would do 2 different tapings. So they would have, 2 groups of viewers come in. I don't know why, I guess just to make sure they got everything right. So let's say, I don't even know the time, but they would do like a 6 o'clock taping and an 8 o'clock taping of the show. And just being there, hanging out, being able to walk around the sets. And, I remember being there for all like the big wedding scene when Kadeem Hardis's character, Dwayne Wayne and Whitley and, all that stuff, but seeing them do like 18 takes of it. So, the thing about that was those episodes would come out like 6-8 weeks after the shoot. So we already knew what was going to happen in the wedding scene. So we'd have friends over, me watching the show. Like, I already know what's going to happen on this joint, but I'm just going to sit here and pretend like I don't. And then Chris was the master of that. Chris would be watching the show and then call out what was going to happen. Everybody think he was, clairvoyant. But it's like, no, we were at the taping, right? We knew what was going on.
I got you. Well, I guess that makes sense, man. Growing up kind of in the life of acting or in the life of like being behind the scenes and getting to see that at a young age, probably you develop a passion for it. Yeah. To where like this is something that I could see myself doing after basketball. Now, my question for you was like, was it hard to kind of give up basketball and kind of go into what you went into, or was it like easy transition?
No, it was hard, man. I think for any hooper, they'll tell you just kind of having that breakup and coming to that point. I was thankful that obviously I sucked at UCLA, so I knew a couple years in advance that, all right, this is probably where my life, my life ain't really going to be hooping. So I need to start figuring things out, figure out what my next move is going to be. But just going from, being a player at UCLA, getting the sweatsuit, the backpack, walking around campus with a certain level of prestige and star power, to now being the low man on the totem pole at an NFL Network or a Fox Sports where you're a PA. Like, I wasn't getting nobody coffee or anything like that, but there was definitely a hierarchy there. But for me, I always just kind of, embrace whatever my role is and know that the same thing I tell kids that get into these different industries and trying to do stuff. It's like, don't ever see yourself. You may have the job title as production assistant, but don't ever see yourself as a production assistant. See yourself as whatever job you want to have, and really start communicating, networking, talking to those people that are in that position, shadowing them, doing your day job, and then also trying to figure out the job you want to do as well. So looking at that job as well. So I may be a production assistant when I'm here, but I'm also looking at the directors and the producers and everybody behind the scenes and seeing all the different stuff they're doing and seeing, where I want my career to go, and really, allowing those people to be mentors and just asking them questions and being in their ear all the time. And just, it's funny. I mean, we had some super talented directors at NFL Network, and I was working basically graphics. So I would sit behind them in front of all like 20, 30 different monitors as they're calling all the shots out, but just studying. And then people like Tony McEwen, who is, somebody I really, really look up to. People like, Gary Foreman, who is a legend in the game, G4, that, just looking at these people as they're working, black men that look like myself, and they have basically the highest position at the company in terms of in production, like directors running things, but just how they move and shake, and just learning a lot from them. Not even really got to tell them to their face or thank them, but just had a tremendous impact on my career.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's that. Man, I love your story, and the fact that you also, like I said, being a baller, but like kind of being sad about that, but immediately going and attacking your new journey in a way that you did when you were playing basketball, which is really good. I think that a lot of people can, like listen to your story and really be like, yeah, what I'm saying? Josiah did his thing, and he played at the highest level of basketball and still was able to, transition to a great after career, man. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
I'm just so like I'm big, so I look like I played in the NFL. So and they gave us, anybody who worked in the NFL, they gave us these ID cards with like our name and our, it had like the official NFL logo and everything. So any Super Bowl week, whatever city we pull up to, I would just pick the worst team in the league that year. So for the longest time, I would tell people I was a tight end on the Cardinals, third string, whatever. But we've been able, I flashed a little ID card, get in the club, do all kind of stuff. Then the Cardinals actually got good and went to the Super Bowl, so I had to switch it up. I couldn't use the Cardinals no more.
Actually, that's funny, man. That's hella funny. Okay, all right. So now you're successful. You're successful at the NFL Network. Then what happens after that?
So I was at NFL for about 10 years. So while I was doing that, I was running a website called Jersey Chase with some buddies of mine, Ike Williams and Quinn Hawking, were teammates of mine at UCLA, actually sat on the bench with me. And we would kind of just joke around a kid during games. So once reality took hold and we had to find some new things to do with our life, we started running this website, doing a bunch of off-kilter content and just, doing a lot of funny stuff. Spots you see now like Bleacher Report or spots like SB Nation in terms of just the content, like memes and even the stuff I'm successful for now. We were doing a lot of that back in the day. We didn't know it. We just thought it'd be funny to slap a Mr. Miyagi face on a photo with the crazy text bubble saying some stuff or just all that kind of stuff. So we were running the website. I was actually running Jersey Chaser and blogging from there. So I'd put up like 8 to 10 articles a day talking about pretty much anything going on in the world of sports, but from like a more of a funny lens, more of a funny skew. Like my thing back then and even now, it still is like there's so many people who weren't really athletes that work in sports space. So they have this really condescending, negative view of athletes. So everything is always framed from the lens of, even back when we were in college, I look at the NIL stuff they got going on now where these kids can make money for their name, image, and likeness. Like, if you would have said something like that 5-10 years ago, people would have told you were crazy or told you, how dare you should just be happy to have a scholarship, all that other, all the other propaganda party lines they used to hit us with. So I was coming in just from the standpoint of, somebody like a Reggie Bush who went to SC, but, just the stranglehold that Reggie had on LA at the time, everybody rocking number 5 SC jerseys. And, and he gets kind of caught up for the situation. I think with his family, they had a crib in San Diego or whatever it was. He gets like stripped of his Heisman, things like that. Stuff like that really irked and bothered me, just the way that he was painted in the media. Meanwhile, SC is making millions and millions of dollars. So yeah, they might have had to forfeit some games or whatever, but they ain't giving back none of the bread from all them jerseys they sold. And it was just kind of this double standard with athletes. So I think when we started that site, it was really more to have, to post things from the lens of the athlete, be supportive of athletes. And that's something I still carry with me to this day. So I was doing that. And then from that, was blessed and fortunate. We did a bunch of content that performed really well online, got the attention of a couple guys that worked in the TV industry that reached out to us. They were working on an animated project. Initially, they were trying to do something on LeBron that was like, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids in tone. We kind of politely told them that, that probably wouldn't rock well with just the way we moved and shaked and our sensibilities and what we, how crazy out of pocket we were with our comedy. So we ended up pitching them an idea based on my experiences sitting on the bench at UCLA, which turned into the show Legend of Chamberlain Heights that ran on Comedy Central for 2 seasons. So, when you watch that show, even the pilot episode, that was literally me, Quinn, and Ike Williams just talking about the different stuff. Like stuff is comical. It's like, yo, should we shower after a game or not? Because we didn't play. Like, these are things like as a hooper, you got to ask yourself, like, damn, I did. I mean, I broke a little sweat, but not enough to really have to warrant a shower. And, but that's just kind of the stuff we would do. So that thing ran for 2 seasons. First season we ran immediately after South Park. So that was a cool, amazing experience. Second season, they kind of put us in the janky slot. But I'm super thankful for that opportunity because that opportunity really shaped and molded me to everything I do now in social. And even back then, this was like 2015, 2016, I saw where social media was headed. I saw the type of industry it was going to become. So I really just started focusing on learning the game and learning the hustle and really immerse myself in that. And now I like to joke that I got a PhD in social as a result of that. So it was a lot of stuff, you learn about the TV game, a lot of grimy stuff, a lot of janky, shady stuff. All the stories you hear, a lot of them are very true. And then, the crazy part is, people will do you dirty on that side, but they'll do it with a smile. They'll, be patting you on the back and smiling as they're doing you dirty. So, when you're naive and you're young, you didn't realize what's going on. But like I said, I'm blessed and thankful to have that opportunity to learn so much about social, and that really helped translate to everything I'm doing now currently and all the success that I've experienced on that side.
No, definitely, man. And like successful you are, very successful, I had to ask you, how did you get the King NBA Twitter nickname?
Look, man, it's funny people will say that, and I don't really like saying that. I just don't believe in those type of titles. I know who my kings of Twitter and NBA Twitter are. I look at guys like Dragonfly Jones, guys like Jethro Jenkins, guys like, Mero. And those are the people that really got into that world and wrote me into kind of social. But I just did a ton of market research, ton of trial and error. And the thing is, like, social media is kind of like being a stand-up comedian from the sense of, like, you're doing it digitally, right? But you put up a meme or you put up a joke, or you put up something, and people will let you know right away if they're rolling with it or not. So I had a lot of, everybody sees all the great stuff now, but that's the same as being a hooper. You learn, like, all right, sometimes I got a pump fake, I got a jab step, I got to do whatever to, depending on who I'm going up against to be able to get a bucket. So that's how I operate when I'm on social, man. I'm always just trying to get buckets and, trying to put out stuff that people like. People, being a hooper, especially on social, people get so caught up in just debates and will be going at each other and really start bickering. And for me, it's like, look, man, I'm not getting no bread from any of these teams. So I'm not going to sit up here arguing and debating just the intricacies and nuances of basketball. That shit sounds terrible to me. So I'm going to get these jokes off. I'm going to have more of a locker room type of experience. Like, you in the locker room, guys are cracking jokes, guys are keeping the mood light, especially like, early in the season when you got the double days and you ain't got no games in sight and it's like 30 days of practice for your first game. You got to keep the mood light, keep the jokes flying, just keep everybody, engaged mentally. So that's the approach I really try to have with social from that standpoint. But just put out a lot of good content, really learn the hustle of social. And I think a lot of people don't realize, people look at me like, oh man, anybody could do that. And I always say, well, shit, if anybody could do it, tell them to go ahead and do it. Because if it's that easy, then, maybe I'm tripping. So
everybody would do it. Everybody would do it. Yeah,
exactly. And then that's where the conversation ends. And you talk whatever shit you want until it's time to go out and get numbers. Same thing with hoop. Like, all right, shit, anybody can go get buckets. All right, here's a ball. Go get a bucket. Like, if you can really do it, you'll go do it. But just learning that hustle, man, and working for a lot of different companies in the digital space. And like I said, working on Legend of Chamberlain Heights and getting the opportunity there to run the social account for the page. And I just did a deep dive, man. And it's funny, if you ask anybody from back in those days, I always had the computer or the phone with me, and I'm doing 2 voices on the show. I'm writing on the show. I'm doing all types of stuff, but I always had the computer going, trying to build the following. I just seen the way that shows like Game of Thrones and Insecure have been able to utilize social media, and even look at Insecure now. And, Stranglehold on social media when, on Sunday nights when that show dropped, everybody's talking about it. So I was like, look, if we can get this show in the conversation on social, we'll be able to get viewers. And this is, 2016, 2017, when a lot of people are cord cutting, they're not watching cable like they used to, and everything is happening online. And that's what we should always preach. A lot of people didn't listen to me. Some did, not enough. When I would tell them just like, yo, social is the way we need to focus our energy on. This is how people move and shake. And look, I can be sitting here in my underwear at home and I could put a tweet up and that thing could get 1 million views. You know what I mean? And I like to joke and kid with a lot of these companies, like you guys can have multi-million-dollar budgets, team full of 10 to 15 people that have this snazzy title and that snazzy title, and I'm running laps around you at the crib with 2 kids jumping all over me with an internet connection because that's all I need. I don't need those millions of dollars because at the end of the day, if you're not creative, if you don't know the grind and the hustle, and you're trying to cheat the grind with additional resources, that's not the way the social works. People, I think people are learning that, and they've had to learn it the hard way. And that's why I've been able to sustain. So I don't like just to call myself the king of anything. Honestly, I just like to go out. And I believe once you start drinking your own Kool-Aid, believe in your own hype, that's when you set yourself up for failure. That's when you set yourself up for a fall. I watch a ton of mob movies and Game of Thrones and King movies. As soon as people start patting themselves on the back, thinking shit is sweet, that's when they get knocked off. So for me, I always just keep the grind. I really appreciate when people say that. I have people like LeBron James call me the GOAT, and I think LeBron is the GOAT of basketball. So to hear LeBron call me the GOAT of what I'm doing, honestly, means a tremendous experience, but also just taught me to lock in and grind even harder, man, because I'm just trying to be able to support my family and also just pave a trail for other people who look like me, look like us to be able to get into this game and realize that you can be super successful and you don't have to look a certain way or have gone to a certain school or, all the other stuff traditionally that we as Black people in America have dealt with to be able to thrive in a social setting. Once you hit social, it's all hands on deck. It's millions of people going at each other, and it's kind of the cream is going to rise to the top. So I always just try to be that cream and try to keep rising.
No, I hear you on that, man. I hear you on that. And LeBron is second. He's second behind Kareem. Kareem is 1, LeBron 2, Jordan 3.
I mean, Kareem, I think, is the universal GOAT. People don't accept it or appreciate it. And I think Kareem is a guy who for being tall, but it's like anybody who's trying to shoot a sky hook, I don't care how tall you are, especially hands that big.
Hard.
Like, go to your Nerf hoop and try and shoot with that little ball, sky hook, and knock it down consistently. And then tell me, Kareem, he's tall. It's like, yeah, but he's knocking down sky hooks from like 15, 17 feet out with consistency. That's not, I don't care. Again, like, yeah, I mean, obviously contesting the shot and all that stuff's a lot harder, but there's a level of skill to it. So look at everything Kareem did from the game, from high school to college to the NBA. Yeah, he's the universal GOAT, should be. But when we get into the MJ, LeBron debates and all that type of stuff, don't
get me wrong. I can respect the LeBron debate. I think LeBron is a hell of a player. I think that he's, to me, he's Magic Johnson on steroids,
Yeah.
Not on steroids really, but just on steroids in the body. You have to correct that. People are like, oh, he on steroids. No. It just
you already know.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely feel like he's definitely a tremendous player, along with Michael. But to me, this is just me. Kareem had to create an unstoppable shot because he dunked so much his first year that they outlawed the dunk. I mean, Shaq didn't even dunk that much where they outlawed the dunk. So
think about how racist the game is. That it's like you're gonna literally outlaw a whole last shot. Like you can't dunk it, you got to drop it over the like. But that's the lengths they went to try and stop Kareem from dominating. Like that was going to make it. It's kind of like you look nowadays and everybody's on Harden now because they changed the foul rules and his numbers ain't looking that great through the first couple of games. Harden's going to adjust and figure out how to get buckets. Like that's just the game. The game carries on. You know what I mean? But to think about back then, because they got rid of the dunk, outlawed the dunk with Kareem, then brought the dunk back my dad's senior year. So he always likes to joke that Louisville was called the Doctors of Dunk back then, and they had like 60 dunks as a team, but he had like 63 by himself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as soon as he was like, yo, I'm dunking on dudes. Like, and it's funny, man, he just did a pod recently, but also just looking at the socio-economic aspect of just the dunk and how dudes like back then, like, Black men were looking at a way to just, let go of their anger and frustration with society and the world. And like, what better than to be able to dunk on a white dude on the court? And, there's no retribution for that. So
I got you on that, man. I got you on that. All right. So let me ask you this, Josiah, man, like everybody kind of goes through like low points of their, career, life, whatever the case is, man. for, I guess, the next Josiah that's coming, in the future. How did you get out of that low? How did you get out of that low point, and what did you do to get out of it?
So at the end of the day, I've had several low points. When my college basketball career ended, when Legends of Chamberlain Heights got canceled. So I'll focus on when Legends of Chamberlain Heights got canceled. Because it's funny, man, I did so much work, and I feel like I grinded so hard for people who could give a fuck about me. You know what I mean? And once you kind of realize that, once the show gets canceled, the phone stop ringing, people stop rocking with you, start, shitting on your name and hating on your shit, and that gets back to you. And, but then we'll try and smile on your face and do the buddy shit. So for anybody, man, it's like you got to be able to pull yourself out of whatever situation you're in. Like, life's not always going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy. You got to just grind. And that's why I really, people call me the king of NBA Twitter now. They don't see, that period in like 2017, 2018. I couldn't get a job. Nobody was messing with me. And I'm sitting here, knowing, telling my wife, like, I know I'm talented and I know that I belong in a certain position in a certain place, but it's not working right now. So I'm going to go force my way into it. And it's funny, man, those same people who try to funny style big time, act janky to me, when they see the numbers start rolling up or they see LeBron start rocking with it or KD or whoever else is in the game, start messing with me and start giving me love and praise. All of a sudden the phone starts ringing again. And, we always believed in you. We knew you could do it. And it's like, man, get the fuck out of here with that shit, man. Honestly, it gave me a lot of perspective, like who to really rock with, who to really trust, and who to really be down with. And I'm down with the people that are down with me, you know what I'm saying? So people see me now, and it's like I don't take anything too serious, man. I just try to have a good time and enjoy life because I've seen both sides of it. And, I've been unhappy, man. It was funny after that show got canceled. I was super depressed, down, ballooned up to like 360, 370 pounds, eating dessert with every meal. Just, a worthless piece of shit in a lot of regards, and just a terrible human in a lot of regards. But was able to get my life back together, get back on the right track, and just grind. And that's the thing now, especially I always try to communicate to people. It's like you have all the skills and resources necessary. If you got a phone and an internet connection, you can get on social media, you can build your brand, you can do stuff like you're doing now with the podcast, reach out to people to jump on. And, some people might tell you, no, it might not work out. So fuck them. Just concentrate on the people who are rocking with you, who will help you get to where you need to get to, but also be a good person, build your network. Don't just build your network trying to use other people for shit. Don't always be the person that's asking for shit. Use your network to help elevate. That's the thing with me and my people that I've come up with. They know if it's my boys or my homies or people that I've come up and I rock with, and they ask me to do some shit and they may not have a budget or a lot of money for it, I'm going to go do it because I know if I hit them to do the same thing, they're going to do that for me. And then when we get the budgets, we get the bread, they're the first people that are getting that call. Like, yo, I got some bread now. I'm going to make sure you get taken care of. So I really go out of my way to just try to help people out, try to give people game. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me for questions or advice or whatever it may be. I always just try to be a resource and an outlet for them because I know how many people I had in my life who were mentors who would always just take the time to help me out as well. So I always feel that need just to give back and uplift others, especially people in the Black community, because I know how hard it is for us in this country, how hard it continues to be. And even looking at situations like George Floyd and I just did a show with Ava DuVernay and Colin Kaepernick, looking at Cap and his experience now. Cap is literally blackballed from the NFL. We got to watch a bunch of trash-ass quarterbacks every week. No business having a job over him simply because he wanted to raise awareness of social injustice and things like that. But this is what really goes on in the world. You know what I mean? And it just kind of laugh about it. You look at John Gruden's emails, and they try to he was the only one that was sending these emails. And if I worked at NFL Network, I know for a damn fact, white dudes don't know how to use email like that. They be on there talking reckless and spicy, thinking that nobody's ever going to find out about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not realizing that this email, but again, when you got people to have your back and want to make sure that shit don't come to the light, it won't come to the light. But for me, it's just being able to give back, be a resource, an outlet. And I always tell people, stay strong, man. When you're at your lowest point, when you feel like things can get lower, then the only place you can go is up. So start doing it. And even, somebody like yourself doing this podcast and things like that. I'm sure at one point it was just a dream in your head to do this. And now you actually out here really doing it, getting it. And, from episode 1 to 10, you're going to get better. From episode 10 to 20, 20 to 100, you're going to keep sharpening your skills, developing. And that's the whole thing. Be consistent. The one thing I like to tell people, man, if you quit, nobody's going to give a shit. So you might as well keep going. You know what I mean? Like, you quit, you can complain about it. Your friends and family may give you some sympathy, but they got their own shit to worry about. So nobody's going to sit there and have a pity party for you. So go get it. And it's not going to be easy. When you get it, you can stun on people, but remain humble. Like LeBron told Cam Payne during the game, bro, year and a half ago, your ass was sitting at home. So stay humble, okay? Okay, just,
I saw that. I was like, Campaign. I remember you in the summer league a couple years ago, 2019. He didn't even play for Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
In Vegas. I was like, he wasn't even playing, So yeah.
Cam got his bag, so I respect that. But just always stay humble, know where you come from, know the people that have looked out for you, and go out of your way to support those people.
Oh, agreed. Much agreed. Like I said, I definitely agree with you 100%. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on the show, man, blessing us with us. I was like, man, I love, like I said, I got mad love for Josiah, and I got mad love for his older brother and his pops. So like, I was like, I'd love to get on, like every time I look on NBA TV, there's something about Josiah Johnson, like, some quote he didn't put up. I'm like, he doing his thing, man. He definitely doing his thing.
Trav, the feeling is mutual, man. I know you. I just remember seeing you in the gyms back in the day as a little kid, but always like being a freshman playing varsity at Crenshaw. I don't think people understand that's probably been done like 3-4 times maybe in history. And obviously you at UCLA as well, then going on to Long Beach State, but was always a big fan of your game. I remember being in the gym as a kid, asked my dad, like, who's that? Like watching you play, like, who's that? He's like, oh, that's Travis. I'm like, damn, like, how are you that young just balling like that? That nice, but always had a tremendous respect for you as a person in your game, man. So I'm happy. I know it took us a little while to get this thing going, man. I kind of was funny styling you a little bit, but just know I was always going to do it, and I was always going to jump on. Sorry, the schedule got a little hectic, but
No, it's all good. You come on before your brother, and I've been with your brother, in high school and college. You know what I'm saying?
He gonna do it too.
So shout out Chris, just letting you know, your little bro came on before you. Well, all right, Josiah, man. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Tell the world what show you're doing now. What's going on with you now?
So you can catch me on the No Chill with Gilbert Arenas podcast, co-hosting with Gil. Gil's a true legend, man. So make sure you plug in, tap in with that. We always got great guests and just great basketball conversation. Catch me hosting Out of Pocket with the good folks at Wave TV on their channel at Buckets. So at Buckets on IG and Twitter. Make sure you check out Colin in Black and White, coming out Friday, October 29th on Netflix. Definitely peep that. 6 episodes. I was blessed and fortunate to be able to write one of those scripts, so make sure you support us so we can keep these bags flowing in. And you also catch me on NBA Twitter Live with the folks at Twitter and Turner Sports. So appreciate everybody. Everybody that comes in is a blessing. I appreciate it. I'm just going to keep grinding, man, and keep trying to be a good example for the next generation.
Agreed. Like I said, I think that you are like a good example, and it's a great example for, like I said, the next generation of college athletes, like just to show you that even if you stop in college, you can go into something and be super successful in that way. I think a lot of us, we struggle with like the after basketball or after whatever sport ends. And we're not knowing what the heck we're going to do. You just kind of like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember, excuse me, when I was retired from overseas basketball, I was just like, I got a son. He's 3 years old. I got to figure out how to feed him. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't want to necessarily coach or train, things like that.
But you already know when if times get super tough, you can always get your ass back in the gym. And that's the thing as a hooper, you always like, hey, I may not want to do the training, but at the end of the day, if push comes to shove, I can get back in the gym and teach the kids how to do the micro drill or whatever. Get
something, right? Something. Now, if it comes to that, you know what I'm saying? But luckily it hasn't went to that yet. I think I'm more like yourself, like to be like the talking, like getting to know people like on this kind of level, where it's like a one-on-one conversation, things like that. I really enjoy like doing that, hearing people's stories, like it's fun to me. But like I said, thank you, my bro. I know you busy, super busy. So like I said, thank you for blessing us for this time. People, everybody know he actually has a game in about 10 minutes. So I got to let him go for sure because he's always working, always busy.
Always getting these flares out. But I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much for having me. Hope I can jump on soon after Chris jumps on. Hope you get pops on.
Oh, man, too. Yeah, that's what I said, man. Get Chris on, get everybody on. Like I said, I love to have everybody on. Share stories, man. Like I said, I got mad love for you, your brother, and your pops, man.
I appreciate you, bro.
All right, peace. Let's see. Oh, you can cut it out, just.